Hello and welcome to Section 4, Responsibility to Supervisees and Trainees. And again, this original PowerPoint was written by Dr. Lejeune, and I am going to review the slides for you this week. So let's talk about BACB certification requirements. So for registered behavior technicians, the requirement is a high school diploma and 40-hour training. The RBTs implement interventions, and they must be supervised by a BCABA or a BCBA. The board certified assistant behavior analyst, the BCABA, requires bachelor's degree, 225-hour coursework and supervised fieldwork, and can design and implement some assessments and interventions, and must be supervised by a BCBA. The board certified behavior analyst requires a master's degree, 315 hours of coursework and supervised fieldwork, designs and implements assessment, analyses, and interventions, and can practice independently. Supervising and training. How often are BCBAs actually the ones implementing the interventions they develop? Well, that depends. That depends on the BCBA and how they're working. Some BCBAs provide direct, and some BCBAs do not. Some BCBAs work with a tiered model, and some are hybrid. So they might provide some direct services, and perhaps sometimes may supervise an RBT who's providing services to a client. And in special education settings, a teacher may be implementing the plans. It may be that you are pushing into a daycare, and a daycare is implementing the plans. So sometimes the BCBA is implementing the plans, but many times it is other people who are implementing it. And a BCBA may be in the position of training and supervising a slew of different types of providers and other professionals and paraprofessionals, direct care staff, or somebody who works in a residential setting, registered behavior technicians, line therapists, paraprofessionals, teachers, parents, siblings, BCABAs, future BCBAs. It is really important to consider that the BCBA is in the position of training and supervising a very wide variety of professionals, and so it's a really good idea to be able to supervise with efficacy and do so in a manner that is going to be objective and provide the feedback that is continuous enough to shape behavior and shape good therapists. Supervision of BCBA candidates. In general, the quality of supervision has been widely variable. The BACB stated that reports of unethical behavior related to supervision are among the highest violations, and that was in 2018. Anyone planning to take the exam after January 2022 must be supervised by someone who is a BCBA and has been a BCBA for at least 1 year, has completed an 8-hour supervision training, and maintains 3 hours of continuing education focused on supervision per 2-year cycle. To have quality supervision, it is necessary for you as the supervisee to understand what the supervisor's requirements are. This way that you can ask for the type of supervision that you want, and if you are not getting it, then you know precisely what the supervisor could be doing to give you a better supervision experience, and you can ask them for that. And I think it's a really important practice to be in, to be able to ask your supervisor to give you the supervision that you need. There may be a supervisor who is not detail oriented. They're very busy. They don't spend a lot of direct time with you. It's okay for you to go and request that from your supervisor. I don't understand the material. I could use some more one-on-one time. Can we please schedule some time to where we can sit down and study? And then follow that up with an email. Make sure that you are seeking out your supervision and then providing that feedback to your supervisor if they're not giving you that quality supervision that you do need. Accountability and supervision. This is a really important piece of supervision that your BCBA is accountable for their actions or inactions. And so let's talk about what specific codes cover this. A BCBA must know the board's requirements and remain responsible for the supervisory relationship. Knowing and complying with the BACV requirements is Ethical Code 4.01. Having accountability for their own supervisory practices and practices of the trainee is 4.04. Complying with documentation and confidentiality requirements is Ethical Code 4.05. And evaluating the effects of their supervision and training is Ethical Code 4.10. So how can we know that we are providing good supervision to our trainees? We can give our trainees a supervision evaluation. We want to make sure that we are giving our trainees a neutral way for them to tell us that, hey, I do or don't like the things that you're doing as a supervisor. And it's a really good practice at the end of each supervision to ask, is there anything that I can do differently? How's this going? How do you feel about the supervision? How do you feel about the supervision with clients? How do you feel about the supervision that you're getting that's one-on-one time? Tell me about how that is working for you. Are you able to understand the concepts? Do you feel safe in talking about things that you are not skilled at yet? Do you feel safe in saying, hey, I don't understand this? Or do you feel safe with your supervisor saying, hey, I'm not really happy with my supervision. Is there something that we can do different? Your trainees should feel comfortable coming to you and saying that they're dissatisfied with your supervisory work. It's important for you to receive feedback, and there may be times where your trainees are not satisfied with your supervisory work, but what you're doing may follow the ethical guidelines, but they want something that's different. Perhaps they want more one-on-one time with you, and you're already spending a lot of one-on-one time with them during the week. Then you want to make sure that you lay out what you are available to do. And if their expectations don't match what you're able to do, that may be out of your supervisory experience, and you may need to help them find another mentor, or you may need to have a second supervisor involved so that you can help delegate those tasks to another BCBA and provide better supervision to your trainee. Major point number 2 is effective supervision. Ethical supervision practices should be effective. Supervisors practice it within their scope of competence, Ethical Code 4.02, with an appropriate number of supervisees, Ethical Code 4.03. Use evidence-based supervisory practices, Ethical Code 4.06. And incorporating ongoing performance monitoring and feedback, Ethical Code 4.08. And then Ethical Code 4.09 is delegating only tasks that are appropriate for the trainee. I think that we've talked about scope of competence quite a bit this semester. Your scope of competence within a supervisory situation may be that providing supervision in a research setting may be new. Providing supervision in a practicum setting may be new. And it's important to make sure that you are trained and proficient in those areas before you provide that supervision. Making sure that you have an appropriate caseload and an appropriate number of supervisees. I think it's incredibly important to think about supervisees who need extra attention. If you have 3 to 4 students who all need extra one-on-one attention, and you take on 3 more who don't, you still have a pretty large caseload of supervisees, and you may find that you can't be effective if you've got 4 supervisees who have larger skill deficits and need more attention. So you want to make sure that you're balancing that, and that you are delegating. If it is something that you are going to do, you want to make sure that you have somebody you can delegate tasks to so that you don't fall behind. Using evidence-based supervisory practice, Ethical Code 4.06. I highly recommend checking out Dr. Denny Reed's books. He's got a couple of really good supervision books that will help guide you in your evidence-based practice. And I believe he put out a new one in this past year, 2022, that you can look at, which talks about providing services in training in the residential setting. And so if you're looking at going into the residential setting, he has some good reads that are available on Amazon or through his site that you can look at. And you want to make sure that you are incorporating ongoing performance monitoring and feedback. Without ongoing monitoring and feedback, your trainees are not going to make as much progress as they could if you were shaping their behavior and shaping approximations through providing that feedback on an ongoing basis. And you want to make sure that you're only delegating tasks that are appropriate for your trainees. You really don't want to assign a functional behavior assessment to somebody who has no idea how to answer open-ended questions or conduct a functional behavior assessment. Perhaps they don't understand environmental factors that they need to record in their functional behavior assessments. You want to make sure that you are delegating tasks that they do know how to do, that you know that they are proficient in, and that you can train them in. So some feedback systems that you can use are fidelity checklists. There's so many different great tools for supervision out there that you can look at. There's many websites and trainings offered by organizations. If you're looking at tools for feedback, I recommend researching organizational behavior management. There's a lot of really great tools on the FIT website, and there's also great trainings for supervision on the FIT website as well as the Behavior Live website. Those are really good websites to check out for supervision feedback systems that you can use. It is a learning experience as you're using these systems to know which one is going to work best and be most effective for you and your supervision that you provide. You want to make sure that you have rubrics for your supervisees so that they know what to expect. They know what is expected of them. It is not okay to have expectations and not lay them out for your techs and your supervisees and then punish them for not engaging in those behaviors the way that you think they should. So you want to make sure you are providing a detailed objective rubric for your trainees. Major point number 3 is respectful supervision, and the ethical codes that reflect this are incorporating and addressing diversity within supervision 4.07 by ensuring continuity of supervision 4.11 and by appropriately terminating supervision when necessary 4.12. Incorporating and addressing diversity within supervision is a newer code, and I highly recommend doing some of the diversity trainings that are available out through Behavior Live and through other CEU platforms that you can get training from, and also ensuring that you are being respectful within your supervisory meetings, and when your registered behavior technicians or your supervisees are coming to you with questions, that you're providing answers that they can understand and that you are providing a healthy environment for that person to make mistakes and for that person to learn from. Ensuring continuity of supervision, so be consistent, have set meetings, have the same document each time for your supervision documentation. Make sure that you are clear with your expectations so that it isn't confusing to your behavior technician. And by appropriately terminating supervision when necessary, you want to make sure you're giving those 30-day notices to your RBTs, and if possible, helping them find another supervisor if that is something that is needed in that situation. In some supervisory responsibilities, you will also be responsible for mentoring, supporting, and giving feedback to supervisees on ethical practice of the profession, such as multiple relationships, practicing with incompetence, treatment efficacy, right to effective treatment, and evaluating non-behavioral treatments. And we've talked about some of these areas in the other sections that we have addressed up to now. And when you are providing supervision, these topics should come up from the very beginning of your supervision with that trainee. It is important to make sure that you are highlighting these components before they start working with clients. Make sure there's something in place for your registered behavior technicians to have the support they need in those situations with families. An example is some families prefer text messages, and so if that family is someone who prefers text messages, one way to avoid a multiple relationship is to have your tech interact with that parent in a group message. So that message will include you, the behavior tech, and the family. And what this does is help to avoid private conversations where a parent is asking the tech questions they can't answer or asking favors of them. This helps the relationship be transparent. Having practice with incompetence, making sure that we are always providing the training that is necessary for the registered behavior technician to be able to implement correctly and with fidelity. And you want to make sure that you are providing effective treatment to your trainee as well as the individuals that we provide services to, and making sure that your trainee understands what that means. What does effective treatment look like, and how can they achieve that? And evaluating non-behavioral treatments. And you're going to run into those very much in the field of ABA because there are a lot of mixed practitioners coming into the picture. So you may have somebody who doesn't use the same type of treatments that you do, and they may recommend non-behavioral treatments, and you want to make sure you're evaluating those treatments and determining, is this something that I can implement? Is this evidence-based? Is this something that's safe for my clients? You want to make sure you're asking yourself those questions as you're providing supervision and asking your registered behavior technician questions to make sure that they understand these areas. So that's it for this PowerPoint for this week. Thank you so much for attending to the PowerPoint session. I hope that you guys have a great week and enjoy learning about supervision and our responsibility to supervisees in the field of applied behavioral analysis.